I'm going to tell you today why you should stop defending yourself. I know that sounds crazy, and I know that you want to. It's a natural reaction when you feel attacked, when you get attacked, and especially when you're dealing with narcissists, you are under constant attack. Believe me, I know. I've had to deal with a couple myself, not just as a lawyer. Obviously, as a lawyer, it's a constant barrage. They love to use the court system as a sword. It's maddening. It's maddening as an attorney, by the way, because you're constantly, oh gosh, here it comes, another barrage of motions that they filed. And you can't just pass them along to the client because the client is freaking out too. So you have to make sure that you explain what they are to the client as well. So, as an attorney, it's not that fun either, by the way. So, yeah, when everything comes in from a narcissist, whether it's a text, whether it's an email, whether it's a verbally, what's your natural reaction? You want to feel, what is going on here? You feel hurt, you feel stung, you feel like offended. That's not true, right? You want to defend yourself. It's a natural reaction. You want the world to know what the truth is. And you think it's not fair. How's this happening? How do they get away with this all the time? And you want the world to know what the truth is. It's a natural reaction. But here's the thing, and this is why I'm going to tell you not to do it. And listen, I've been attacked too. I've been attacked on a personal level. I've been attacked by narcissists. I've been attacked, on this channel. I mean, I get attacked all the time as well. Okay. So I'm going to tell you to stop defending yourself the way you think that you should. I mean, there are ways that you can powerfully make sure that the truth comes out, but not the way that you think, because the way that you want to come back at it makes you look like the victim. It makes you look like there's something to be ashamed of, that there's something that you're the victim in some way. And that's why I tell you to stop defending yourself in the way that you want to. So let me just give you an example. I heard, actually, this is really, really interesting. I was recently interviewed by a guy named Ed Milet on his podcast, which you could definitely check out. Right after that, a friend of mine was listening to his podcast, and he was interviewing John Edward, who is a known psychic. My friend was listening to him because her daughter, who was very, very close to us, passed away. She's 18 years old. We were pregnant together. My daughter, who's now 19, it was her best friend. They were like sisters. And so, we've been listening to this because of his ability, regardless of what you think, we believe that he has this ability to reach people who have crossed over. And so we were listening to his podcast with John Edward, and John Edward was talking about his constant, attacks that he gets. And he was saying, I don't defend myself. I know my truth. He said, I don't defend, I explain. I'll explain myself, but I know my truth. And honestly, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell you that even explaining is a little bit of a dangerous territory. I say never explain, justify, or overshare. When you're responding to emails, don't even try to justify yourself. You can respond, but you don't need to explain. You don't need to justify. You don't need to overshare. I remember one time I was being attacked by a group of people, and I was talking to somebody and they were saying, it's not what they're saying. It's how it lands for you, because people are going to say whatever they're going to say. Right. But if they say something and it's not true, like, just give you an example. Like, if they say something like, oh, you're a banana, you would be like, well, that's ridiculous. I know I'm not a banana, right? So ridiculous. So it's really how it lands for you. If you know your truth, then it really doesn't matter. So I want you to know that when you defend yourself, you're really saying, I'm giving this other person power. I'm giving them control. I'm saying I'm a victim. And I don't want you to do that anymore. I don't want you to give that person control. I want you to have the narcissist lose control. And I have all videos on what it looks like when a narcissist loses control. It ain't pretty. You can definitely check it out if you'd like. It ain't pretty and it's great. You know, you are the one who wants to turn those tables on the narcissist. You are the one that wants to live in your power and live in your truth. So, and you know what? There's certain things that are just not going to be negotiable when you go to negotiate. You know what's not negotiable when you go to negotiate? Your self-worth, your self-respect. Those things aren't negotiable. And when you are responding and you know your truth, you respond from a powerful place. So you respond by presenting, you respond by explaining, but you never defend. Okay. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference in your mindset. And so, you know, I want you to say, you know, I live my power. I live my truth. I know my truth. So I want you to write that in the comments right now, because I want you to start that thinking right now. I know my truth. There's certain things that are just not negotiable. So you can present, you can explain, but you're going to stop defending yourself right now. Let's talk about, I mean, this is going to be so good. I wanted to say that you have actually been happily married, now remarried.
Yes.
For 22 years.
Yeah, I think together 25, married 23. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, 23.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you actually went on to have a whole new life after, and which is amazing. This is so good. So we're talking about your previous marriage here. So I want to go back. You grew up in New York. You were born in England, I think.
Yes. Hence the Duchess of Bay Ridge. That's why he gave me that name.
Okay. But you grew up in
Brooklyn,
New York City, in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And you were super young. You meet Jordan Belfort at a party.
Correct.
And you were modeling, I think, at the time.
Yes, I was. Yes.
But you were like 22, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you meet him at a party. What happens?
Yeah, so I was 22 years old and modeling and living in the city and having, pretty much the time of my life as a 22-year-old should be, right?
Yeah.
And I had a boyfriend at the time. And as the movie depicts, I walked into this big, beautiful White House on the beach to Jordan's party. And as soon as I walk in, I can tell, I get a very eerie feeling. All the people, they seems like there's something wrong with them. They just seem out of their minds. And now I know, of course, they were on Quaaludes. I didn't even know what a Quaalude was, when I walked into the house. And so that was very interesting. And I really didn't even meet Jordan that long. We didn't have that long engagement as it shows in the movie, but was true is someone did expose themselves to me. And at 22, I was horrified and felt so much shame from that. Ironically, we feel shame when people are weird towards us, but that's what happens. And so I said to my boyfriend, we got to get the hell out of here.
And by the way, he was married.
He was married at the time. So I didn't even think about it again, except for the fact that those people seemed strange. But what would happen is that he had a white Ferrari Testarossa that he took the muffler out and put in a muffler that you can hear no matter where he drives, which kind of makes sense, right? So I would just hear his Ferrari circling around my house and I would see him in the Hamptons. But again, I had no idea that he was interested in me.
So how do you end up seeing him again?
So what happens is that he actually says to a mutual friend of ours, not a very close friend of mine, I'm going to make you $15,000 in the stock market if you get Nadine to come to dinner with us. Now, I didn't know this, right? So it was a total setup. And yeah, at 22, of course, you're super naive. And this woman kept calling me, and I was like, all right, I'll go to dinner. Like I kept blowing her off, honestly, because I didn't want to go. And so she said, oh, that guy Jordan's going to come. And I said, what's he coming for? Isn't he married? She goes, what do you care? I said, I don't care. I just think it's strange, right? So even my gut then, which I overrode, thought it was strange. And we sit down on 3rd Avenue at Mezzaluna, comes out of his white Testarossa with his cowboy boots on and sits down, and we just start to talk. And he's charming, he's magnanimous, he's bright. I'm from Brooklyn, he's from Queens. We get along fabulously. Then when he asks to drive me
So he
home,
basically, your friend basically took a
yeah, just said,
$15,000 bribe
yeah,
for
yeah, to set me up. And so we weren't good friends. It was just an acquaintance. And then as he's driving me home, I'm like, oh, I think this guy likes me. And then the next day, I had 1,200 square foot of flowers in an 800 square foot apartment.
And did you know that he was married?
Yeah, well, because I said to her, isn't he married?
Oh yeah,
Right?
you did say that. You
Yeah.
knew he was married.
So I knew he was married. So that's why I thought it was
Did
strange.
you ask him, like, are you still married at the time?
Yeah, sure. I don't even really remember our conversation, but I'm sure I did. He sent me those flowers. And then I actually went to Chicago to model, and I really didn't see him much after that. And then I bumped into him again at a gym in New York City called the Vertical Club, which was like the hot club there, fitness club. And we saw each other there, and he said to me, I'm separated, I have an apartment in the city, let's go out.
Was that true? Was he actually separated?
He did have an apartment in the city. I don't think she knew they were separated.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So did you go out with him then? You
We
did.
did. We went out, and then that was it. Fast and furious, madly in love. Probably said we loved each other 2 weeks later. I can't remember exactly, but yes, we did. And I think we were engaged 6 months later and married 6 months after that.
Yeah. And so I remember, in watching other interviews with you,
Yeah.
you talked about how he pressured you. It was like even the dating was this high pressure sales tactic stuff. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we started to date, and I'm over the moon in love with him, and all of a sudden the domination and the threats start to come. And if you won't marry me, I'm not going to date you. And I was like, I don't want to get married. I'm 23 years old. My parents got divorced. I had it in my mind I wanted to wait till 30 for whatever reason. He's like, nope. So plows through that boundary. Then if you're not going to have kids right away, I'm not going to marry you. So there was always this threat and domination, and always moving the goalpost.
So even moving the goalposts already there.
Yeah, right. And I just was, and it was so shocking to me as a young girl. And I think we even got into a fight with it after we got engaged, and he like ripped the telephone out of the wall. And I just remember thinking, like, what is happening? But I was so swept up in the feelings of love that I just thought, oh, he just must love me.
Yeah, like I remember hearing you say, "Oh, well, he just must love me so much."
Right. Right. Little did I know that he was, coercively controlling me to have complete control over me and wrap me up before I really discovered who he was.
Like already it was this intermittent reinforcement.
Already, right from the beginning, because Bulgari watch would show up at my house, and then the next day I'd be threatened. Right. So, and that's the intermittent abuse or intermittent reinforcement. It's the behaviors were so extreme.
Yeah. So let's talk about that intermittent reinforcement a little bit, because it's the dopamine that's just going crazy in your brain. This dopamine, which is a very addictive. Right? Very addictive.
Yes, that's the addictive pathway. Yes, in your brain. And what happens with the intermittent abuse is, like I said, they're extremely generous, kind, and helpful, and then extremely dominating, controlling, and cruel. And so what happens is that that also produces very extreme feelings in us. And that's actually what causes the bond and the trauma bond. I write in my book about the research with the animals, that animals that were given that intermittent reinforcement bonded to the trainer 230% more than animals with just straight kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Read
Yeah.
that research, I literally like almost jumped out my window with joy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and Robert Sapolsky also did a study. Are you familiar with
No,
that?
no, this was in Dutton's book, but I'm sure it's his research is true. If
Okay.
it proves
So
that,
Robert Sapolsky did a study on monkeys,
yeah,
and it was the dopamine study.
yeah.
And he did it on with the studies on where they would hit a
Oh,
bell,
yes,
the
yes,
bell.
yes,
Yes. And it was if they hit it every single time and they got a reward every single time, then nothing would happen in their brain. Right.
right.
And he's a professor at Stanford University.
Mhm.
And if they got intermittent reinforcement, like they didn't know when they were going to get
Right.
um, a reward,
Yes.
then the dopamine levels in their brain rose to the level of cocaine.
Yeah, I believe
And
that.
so it's actually the anticipation. It's actually the anxiety, really, of like, will I get it? It's like
Yeah.
that's what
Well,
causes.
yeah, and that's an important piece of it, because a lot of people talk about an abuse cycle. It's not a cycle. It's intermittent, and like you said, you never know when it's coming.
Yeah.
And that's what really also makes you hypervigilant and worried, as you said, right? Anxious. And then when it comes, you're like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah,
so when it comes, it's that dopamine rush.
yeah, yeah,
It's that rush.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And so talk about, I thought this was so fascinating, so fascinating. The qualities that you said that you have and that
yeah,
people have that were so perfectly aligned that
yeah.
that were like caused you to stay in that relationship longer
Yes.
than you probably should have.
Yeah, and so in 2019, I read Sandra Brown's book, Women Who Love Psychopaths, and it
Mm,
really changed my life forever,
mm,
because she had been working with women that had experienced coercive control and intimate partner violence, and they were judges and therapists and lawyers and, really pretty high functioning women, let's just say that. And so they weren't matching the other women that had been researched in the shelters. And so she started to give them all the 5-factor model of personality, which is a personality test that measures traits: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, neuroticism, and agreeableness. And what she discovered was that 70% of the women scored very high in agreeableness, which I score very high, and hence why I'm a therapist, which
mm,
means that you're loyal and tolerant and altruistic, and relationships are everything to me, right? That is my currency, basically. I
mm,
love relationships. And then the conscientious piece is a piece. I'm very organized and diligent. I know how to get things done. I'll see everything through. I believe I can do it. And so that's why one of the reasons why I wrote my big book, to kind of turn the tables. It's like, let's stop calling these women, let's stop saying they have learned helplessness. Let's stop victim blaming. Let's stop calling them codependent, and let's really use research to look at them. And so that just opened my eyes in a way, because when I divorced Jordan, everybody was like, you're an addict and you're codependent. And I thought to myself, it's more than that. But I didn't know.
mm. Oh my gosh, that is so fascinating.
Yeah.
So fascinating. Really
Yeah.
so fascinating. So in some ways, it's almost like there's an independence factor to it in a
Yes.
way, but
Yes.
there's also eh, there is a level of where you think that you can fix this person.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, exactly. That's, and once one of my therapists said to me, well, he goes, you were so grandiose, you thought you could fix Jordan Belfort. What's wrong with you? And I said, yeah, well, I'm conscientious, right? Hence why I got my PhD. Like I like to see things through and I'm very hopeful individual. My name actually means hope. Nadine means hope. Uh,
Hmm.
and hope is the hook too.
Hope is the hook. Hope that they're going to change.
Yeah,
Hope.
and I thought my love would be enough for him to change, and of course it wasn't.
Mm.
I
Hope is
was
the hook. Hope that they're going to change. Hope that the relationship is going to be enough for them, or hope that
that if you
um,
have children, maybe they'll change, right? If they move, if they go to therapy, right? And then, but nothing ever materializes.
right. Their actions never. So it's their the words have to meet the actions, and it's three things. It's the words, the actions, and their body language, right? It's all three things have to match up.
That's right.
And with narcissists, it's usually just the words that come out of their mouth.
Yes.
It's just the words that coming out of their mouth.
Yes.
It's rarely all three are matching up.
Yes. Yes.
Rarely all three.
Words never match actions, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, their words, their body language, and then
Right.
actually doing
That's
what they
right.
say they're going to do. So during your marriage, then you get married, and at some point, he actually starts, well, he's doing drugs.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Massive.
was he doing drugs like before the marriage too?
He was slightly doing a Quaaludes at parties, right? Because at that party I go to, right, they're all on Quaaludes. So he certainly was doing them, but more socially, like one. But then what happens, of course, if you have addictive personality, then it becomes five, then it becomes 10. Yeah. So the drug addiction to the Quaaludes was very intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was doing like coke and other things
Yeah, the
too.
Coke came at the end. In the movie, they show Coke more because for sensory reasons, like it's kind of hard to get excited to see someone pop a Quaalude,
Yeah.
right? So, but the Coke was his demise at
Mm-hmm.
the end because Quaaludes make you very sleepy. So then you have to do so much Coke to wake you up.
Mm-hmm. Uh, and did that contribute to the physical abuse?
Yes, yes, yes. It's ironic. In the movie, he shows us always fighting about women. We never had a fight about a woman.
Mm-hmm.
We fought about drugs every week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at some point he kicks you down the stairs.
Yeah. Yeah. What happened is that I said to him, I'm not going to sit here and watch you kill yourself. I mean, all these people that are feeding off of you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But I do care. You're the father of my children, and you need to get sober or I'm going to leave you. And that's when he went crazy. He took all my clothing and jewelry and threw them in the fireplace and lit them on fire and
Mm,
screamed at me.
mm,
And I went in the closet and I prayed and I said, God, give me the strength to do this. And then unfortunately he tried to take my daughter, said I'm gonna be taking our daughter to Florida on a private plane. And I was like, over my dead body. You're whacked out on coke. But luckily I had a very smart mother. And she said to me, because I had left the house, and when I went back, she said, call the police and tell them you're going to go home to a domestic violence situation
mm,
because she knew. And so after he kicked me, I did call the police, hung up, and I stopped him from taking our daughter. And luckily they came and he got arrested.
mm.
So it worked out.
But you talk about how you feared leaving him.
Oh, yeah. Because I mean, that was, after he kicked me down the stairs and he was in rehab, I remember looking at him through the window and shaking. That's how much fear I had in him. So then he did come back home. He was sober, but my love for him was done,
Hmm.
clearly. And also, he didn't really have any remorse. And as we know, people like that don't have a lot of remorse or empathy. And that was really the knife in my heart, not having the remorse,
Yeah. Like,
and
did you ask him, like, you know, don't you feel anything for what you're doing to me, what you're doing to us? Did you ask him that?
I'll never forget it, right? It was like 6 months after he had done it. We were having sushi. I can still picture myself there. I must have been 30 at the time. And I said, it was really hard what I went through with you, the drugs, the abuse. He was like, wasn't that bad. And
Oh.
that was it. My heart went done. And so then I always tell this to my patients. I did get lucky. He got arrested.
Hmm.
And so his ankle bracelet that he had on his ankle was ironically my freedom
Mm.
because I knew he couldn't hurt me anymore.
Yeah. Did he threaten, like, oh, if you try to leave me, I'm gonna do these things to you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna.
Oh, yeah. When we were married, and it's not funny, but it's 25 years later, so I'm talking about it easily. It didn't feel like this then. I just want to state that he told me the only way you'll leave this marriage is in a body bag,
Mm.
right? And
And
so,
when he said that to you, how did you feel?
oh God, well, a lot of times they use those very imagistic. We call them scorched earth statements.
Hmm.
These large, right, grandiose scorched earth statements. And I felt, terrified. And then after the physical violence, and that's why once that ankle bracelet was on, I was like, bye-bye, no more.
Hmm. So I'm going to give you 6 things to avoid here. And then at the end, I'm going to give you the number one thing to avoid. Okay. So 6 things to avoid. And then I'm going to give you the number one thing to absolutely avoid, the mother load of things to avoid, the hairiest thing to avoid of all. All right. Because let me tell you, when you are dealing with narcissists, toxic people, there actually are a number of things to avoid. All right. So I'm going to help you out here for sure. There's just so many times that it's like you're dealing with a landmine when it comes to narcissists. All right. And I know because I've dealt with them in my personal life as well. And that's why I'm on this mission. I'm on this crusade. I've been recognized as one of the top attorneys in the United States. I've written a couple of best-selling books, but I'm here giving you free advice every single day because I want you to have the information in your hands. So if you want that too, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. And by the way, if you're looking for ways to disarm that narcissist, free phrases, free responses, how to respond, you don't know how to put it into emails, you don't know how to put it into text messages, you don't know what to say, I've got those responses for you. Just go to disarmthenarc.com. I've got those free phrases for you. Disarmthenarc.com. All right. So number one, don't try to change their mind. Don't try to change their mind. All right. Because you're never going to do that. Once they get it in their mind that they are going to do something, then that's it. You might be able to change their mind in other ways, but if you head on try to change it, they're going to dig their heels in and be super, super stubborn. To change a narcissist's mind, you've got to kind of plant seeds and sort of let them kind of come to their own conclusions and let them sort of think that it was their idea. You can't head on let them think that you're changing their mind, because if you do, they'll never ever change it. So number one, that's one thing. And I'm working my way up to the mother load thing to avoid when talking to a narcissist or a negative person. All right, the second thing to avoid is don't ever try to get them to acknowledge anything you ever did for them, or, your accomplishments or anything like that, because they're never going to do that. They will never acknowledge that. And by the way, if you are negotiating with a narcissist, don't think that early on you are generous and say, you know what? I'm going to give them this thing, I'm going to throw in this thing that I know that they want, or I know is something that I'm entitled to, but I'm going to give it to them because then they'll see how generous I am. And then everything's going to get resolved earlier because they're going to see how nice I am, how generous I am. They don't. They either, number one, think that they're entitled to it. So they're like, no, you're not being generous. That was mine to begin with, or I was entitled to that to begin with. Or number two, they just take it. They basically just throw it to the side and just go, yeah, and your point is what? I want more. They don't ever go, yeah, you did this thing, or yeah, that's great what you did for that. They just don't. They don't acknowledge you. They don't see what you've done for them. It doesn't become kind of like, this chip that you did early on, this great sort of generosity accomplishment that you got early on. It doesn't happen like that, unfortunately. So don't think that you're going to do that early on and get some kind of goodwill for it. Okay. So that's the second thing. The third thing that you want to avoid when you are talking to a narcissist or a super negative person is thinking that you're going to get closure. A lot of people just want that closure. They want that bow that tied up. Hey, we had a great thing. Let's wish each other well. Let's know that it was all good. And, going forward, let's be on good terms and all those things. That's what I thought when I was wrapping things up with a person in my life that I had a business relationship with. I thought that I could do that and leave it all on good terms and have some kind of closure with it, talk it through. It doesn't work that way with narcissists. They're not capable of it. No matter what you do, even if they wanted to end the relationship, they still end up taking it personally, that you were okay with it, that you're walking away from it. Even if you didn't want to walk away from it, they still end up looking at you as an enemy, no matter what. If you're not for them, then you're against them. You're not going to get that closure. You're still going to end up being public enemy number one. It's not going to feel fair. It's still going to be awful. You're not going to get that. So don't think that. Avoid talking to them about that. Avoid thinking that you're going to get that nice little neat bow at the end of that. Just avoid that conversation. Avoid trying to have that closure conversation, because you're not going to get the thing that you think that you're going to. And in fact, you're going to end up hurting yourself more than anything, because whatever you say or do will end up being used against you no matter what, because they will end up saying and twisting things that you do. Okay, so which leads me to the next thing, which is don't argue with them, because when you argue with them, then you will end up getting into that quicksand with them. And, that's exactly what they want you to do when you argue with them. Now you're getting into the thick of it. And, I remember, some of the narcissists that I've known, they'd be like, yeah, now we're getting into it. Now we're having a conversation. They actually enjoy that. They get off on it. They get a high on it. And you are out of your realm, because especially if you are, an empath, and you think that you are going to get to a resolution. You think that you are covering ground. You think that you are getting to an end point. You are not. They are trying to just keep you spinning your wheels. They're just, yanking your chain, spinning your yarn, and it ends up costing you money, costing you time, costing you energy, your mental health, your soul, the whole thing. You are just arguing with them, and they're just getting narcissistic supply out of the deal. You're going nowhere. So that is just one of those things that you really need to avoid. And by the way, I've gone through 4 things so far. I still haven't gotten to the number 1 thing that you need to avoid, by the way. Okay. These are just other things that you need to avoid. There's still not even the number 1 thing that you need to avoid. Have you figured out what the number 1 thing is yet? Haven't even gotten to it yet. These are all just other things that you need to avoid. All right. The next thing that you need to avoid, which is still not the number 1 thing, but is a 5th thing that you need to avoid, is definitely avoid defending yourself. Do not defend yourself. Do not go, I didn't do that. That's not me. Are you kidding me? You think that I did that? What are you saying? I'm not a horrible person with money. I don't steal. I'm not a child molester. I don't do. What are you saying? How can you accuse me of that? Those are the kinds of things that narcissists want you to say. I don't beat children. I don't do, I'm not a horrible mother or a deadbeat dad. Those are the kinds of things that narcissists want you to say. They want you to get into it with them, right? They want you to say those things because that is where they get you down into it again, right? Arguing with it. They pull you into that quicksand. They pull you into that mud, right? They start going down into it. Oh, you bought a dog that was a designer poodle or a designer this or that. And you're like, what? I got the dog at the pound and I can prove it. And then there you are defending yourself. Don't go down the path. Don't do it. When you defend yourself, you're agreeing that there is an issue. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is say, I deny what you're saying. No, there's no merit to what you are saying. There's so much more merit in short things. Never explain, justify, or overshare. Just the facts. Stay strong. And I want you to put that in the comments right now. Stay strong. Stay strong. You can do it. And by the way, still haven't gotten to number 1. Still haven't gotten to number 1, which is what I'm going to do right now. Are you ready for number 1? The number 1 thing to avoid when talking to a narcissist or a negative person, the number 1 thing, which I've kind of alluded to here so far, but I haven't actually come out and said it yet. The number 1 thing to avoid when talking to a narcissist is do not take their bait. Do not take their bait because they're going to give you a lot of it. They're going to pull it out and they're going to reel you in like that. Like you are some kind of fish on their hook. And then there you are coming in like that. And like they hooked you like a fish. Okay. And dealing with a narcissist is like getting arrested. Like everything you say or do is going to end up being used against you, right? And you don't want to have to deal with that. And this is whether you're dealing with it in a court case, or any kind of situation. It can be any kind of a negotiation or anything. Today, we're diving into a topic that's essential for anyone who's dealing with a narcissist: how to properly defend yourself, whether you're in a case, whether you're in a communication, it really doesn't matter. If you're dealing with a narcissist, it is no fun whatsoever. And you want to be able to properly defend yourself because they're experts at manipulating, gaslighting, pushing your buttons, dragging you, sucking you, pulling you into that mud all the time. If you don't know how to protect yourself, it's easy to feel completely overwhelmed, defeated, exhausted from dealing with them. So I'm going to walk you through what the practical steps are that you can take to properly defend yourself and actually even get on the offensive side of things. You want to be able to have your peace of mind no matter what they throw your way. All right. So step number one is recognizing their tactics and staying one step ahead. I talk about this in my SLAY method, SLAY. S stands for strategy, L is leverage, A is anticipate, and Y is you. And you want to anticipate and stay one step ahead of them. Understanding that they're constantly trying to create what I call drama, trauma, and chaos because they want to maintain that sense of confusion so that they can maintain a sense of control. They'll use tactics like gaslighting, blame shifting, shape shifting, outright lies to make you question your reality and wear you down emotionally. And what I mean by this is like you're having a conversation. I literally just saw this recently where you believed that something was happening. They even confirmed it in a text message saying, yep, this is what's happening. And then when that doesn't go that direction, you're like, hey, I thought we had agreed on this. Oh no, that's not what we agreed to. And then you even send them the text message and they say, oh no, you're confused on that. What we meant was this. And then all of a sudden you're over here. And you're like, what? That's like completely shifting the facts. All right. And then they just outright lie because they're constantly trying to invalidate you and make you question your reality and wear you down. And then, keep themselves in this place of control. And they'll never say, oh, my apologies, I didn't know that's what you meant, or, because they know exactly what's happening. They knew exactly what was happening at the time. So stay informed, stay mentally prepared. When you recognize their tactics, instead of falling into their trap of trying to defend yourself, I always say never jade. Now, I always wear jade, but never jade, never justify, argue, defend, or explain, because what are you trying to do over there? They're not going to go, you know what, you're right. You have to stay out of their trap by not reacting emotionally. Just take a step back and recognize what's happening. I always say SOS, stop, observe, then speak, so that they don't have control over you. You want to be able to respond calmly and assertively instead of getting sucked into their drama. And step number two is set clear boundaries and then enforce them. So put that invisible shield down around you and then start looking at them as if they're a toddler having a tantrum on the floor, because that's basically what they are. They experienced trauma during childhood. It caused arrested development in their brain, in the limbic system part of their brain, and then that causes them to now be easily triggered on anything that's going to make them think that they're not getting what they want. And, it's like a toddler. I'll just scream louder. I'll just scream longer. I'll just kick harder. You have to be the one who's going to change. They're not going to change. And so trying to get them to change is definitely never going to be the way. If they start raising their voice or trying to bait you, trying to provoke you, they go fishing, they're trying to pull you in. And if they even try to push it further, you just have to say, this approach is not working for me. I appreciate your feedback. I understand what you're saying. I hear you. You're not going to get dragged into that mud. It's about protecting your mental and emotional space from their influence. The next thing is documentation. This is especially important if you're dealing with a narcissist in a legal setting or a work setting. Document everything. What I mean by that is you're going to write down what they're saying, what they're doing, or have it in a Google Doc on your phone so that you know what they're doing, what they're saying is documented. You have it enshrined somewhere so that when they come back to say, I didn't say that, that's not how it happened, you go, you know what, I wrote it down in real time and this is exactly what happened. You can even send them a message to confirm this is what we discussed. Get them to say, yeah, this is what we discussed. So have a folder in your Google Drive, in your phone, that says, notes and evidence or conversations. Keep a record of interactions, emails, texts, and meetings. You want to start organizing all of this. Fed up with narcissists walking all over you? Sick of everyone believing their lies while you're paying through the nose in attorney's fees? What if you could hold all the cards for a change? Hey, I'm Rebecca Zung. I'm a top 1% trial attorney, a USA Today bestselling author, and I've spent my entire career helping people slay narcissists in negotiations, most recently through my proven slay method. What if your suffering could become your superpower? Imagine turning all that pain into power, not just for you, but for others too. This is your chance to take back control. You can finally win. Become a high conflict negotiation certified coach. Help others while transforming your own life, and do good for the world. This is your chance. Go to RebeccaZung.com/apply, and I'll show you how to turn the tables for good starting today. And if you need help with what to document and how, get my free Doc the Narc documentation blueprint at docthenarc.com. It's a guide that'll help you stay organized and ensure you have the clear evidence that you need if you ever need it. Documentation can be a powerful shield against their gaslighting tactics. And if you're so ready to defeat that narcissist, put a "so ready" in the comments below. Next is avoid emotional reactions and stay detached. They're massive experts at pushing your buttons because they know that an emotional reaction gives them power. When you react, they feel like they've won. So one of the most effective defenses is to remain emotionally detached. This doesn't mean that you don't feel emotions. It means you don't let them see it. So go cry, scream wherever you need to, but not in front of them. Practice staying calm and composed no matter what they say or do. When they try to provoke you, respond in a calm, neutral tone. You're responding, you're not reacting. You're observing, you're not absorbing. They hate when they can't get a rise out of you because it undermines their control. Staying emotionally detached is one of the most powerful ways to take back control and keep your peace. So the next thing is focusing on facts, not feelings. So key. Remember that facts are your best friend, and they're going to try to twist the narrative. They're going to try to say, let's talk about something that happened 20 years ago or whatever. You don't want to do that. You want to steer the conversation away from all of the emotion and keep pushing it back to the issues. Here's what we're talking about. This is the scope. The facts show this. Based on this, you just want to keep pushing it back to that and away from you. The next, I want you to build a strong support system. Finally, one of the best defenses is having a solid support system because they isolate you. They know how isolating you keeps you under their control. Join my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. Having people who provide perspective and encouragement can make a world of difference. They remind you of who you are, and having others support you is a crucial line of defense. And if you're dealing with a narcissist and you've had to set boundaries or defend yourself, I'd love to hear your comments below. And don't forget to get that Doc the Narc blueprint. It's an invaluable resource. Okay, so final tips for properly defending yourself. Stay grounded in reality. Narcissists thrive on confusion. When you stay grounded in the truth and don't let them distort it, you keep the upper hand. Don't justify or defend. Never justify, argue, defend, or explain. Remember that. They're going to try to drag you into these endless arguments. Pick your battles and don't feel obligated to justify yourself constantly. Use that gray rock method where you're like a gray rock. You're so bland and uninteresting. They have to go find another source of supply. Know when to walk away. You know, that old Kenny Rogers song, know when to hold it, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. Best defense is simply removing yourself from that conversation. When they see you not engaging, they lose power. Trust yourself. Narcissists make you you question your reality, but always remember that your perceptions and feelings are valid. Defending yourself against a narcissist is simple, but not easy. They're very simple to understand, but they're difficult personalities. There's no doubt about it. With the right strategies, you maintain your control, you maintain your peace. Remember, your worth is not defined by what they think, because they think very little of themselves. That's why they treat people so badly. You have the power to take control and create the most authentically powerful version of yourself and live life on your terms. Let's dive into how you can defend your space, foolproof ways to set boundaries with narcissists. First, in life, we encounter all kinds of various challenges in dealing with narcissists. And one of the most draining experiences is, how do you even start? The first thing that you can do is recognize those red flags. I talk about step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. You are completely turning this thing around. You are course correcting. And the first thing you need to understand is that they've been grooming you from the beginning. Forgive yourself for that, because they are the most charming, charismatic people on the planet. They've actually been mirroring you. They use mirror neurons. And I actually talk about this in my book, how they actually are so good at knowing how to present themselves to you to become the exact perfect version of what you wanted to see from the beginning. They attach themselves to strong, capable, deserving, respectful people. They don't attach themselves to you because you have so little value. They attach themselves to you because you have so much value. So remember that. Remember that that's why they want to keep hold of you. That's why they love using you as a source of supply. It's actually the biggest scam on the planet, that they make you feel like you're so full of not value, right? This huge scam. So remember that you are actually strong, capable, and amazing. So filled with value. They don't want the clearance rack item. So recognize that red flag. That's number 1. Your first step. Don't run. Put that boundary in place. That first step to defending your space is to identify those red flags of narcissistic behavior. They tend to exhibit those consistent patterns, such as constant self-centeredness, mirroring you, flooding you with all of that lack of empathy, and that pretending like that they like the same things as you and all of that. They use people for their own gain. And remember, if they are love bombing you again, it's all a manipulation. Everything they do is a manipulation, especially when it's for their own gain, to get you back into their lair. If you are noticing that they're constantly dominating conversations and they're not really showing a genuine interest in you, your opinions, your feelings, your emotions, they're constantly interrupting you, if they're constantly diverting that conversation, why are you bringing that up now? Are you ready to transform lives at the deepest level while also earning money and taking your career to the highest heights? Well, if so, then my brand new SLAY Master High Conflict Negotiation Certification training is exactly what you have been looking for. Get ready to acquire the essential skills necessary to guide your already existing clients or team members through the intricacies of dealing with challenging personalities. Or you can become a brand new certified coach and ignite an amazing new career and start off by knowing that you can make a real difference in people's lives. Hi, I'm Rebecca Zung, and I'm an attorney, and I've been named a best lawyer in America by US News, and I'm also a globally recognized narcissist negotiation expert. I'm also the author of a best-selling book, Slay the Bully, How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win, and I'm the founder of the SLAY method of negotiating with high conflict personalities. I am a certified coach also, and as a certified master coach in the SLAY method, you will be able to guide your clients or your team members through the complexity of dealing with high conflict or narcissistic personalities, including using the power of my proven SLAY method. I've literally helped thousands of people across the globe with this method, and it has saved lives in negotiating people from lives of drama, trauma, and chaos to step into lives of freedom, possibility, and purpose. And you will be able to help them do the exact same thing into finding lives of freedom and ultimately respect, acknowledgement, and that feeling of knowing that you have helped people at their deepest level of their soul, and you will be able to be paid for that. And it's not just about helping others, by the way, it's about investing in yourself and your own future. By joining this training, you will be investing in your own professional growth, enhancing your own quality of life, and unlocking limitless earning potential. Are you ready to take charge of your destiny and help shape the destinies of others while making more money doing it? Then join my free workshop, High Conflict Negotiation Certification. Boost your authority and your income. Discover why high conflict coaches are in huge demand right now, both personally and professionally. Learn how to coach people through crises, master emotional triggers, and conquer their fears, all while boosting your authority and your income. Don't miss out on this exclusive, life-changing opportunity. Just click the link to sign up for this free workshop right now. Constantly saying you're interrupting them, constantly saying that you're talking too loud or whatever it is, you know that this is not a genuine person who's really for you. If they're not willing to take responsibility for their actions, if they're constantly blaming others, blaming you for any problems that they encounter, that's a red flag. Next, trust your gut. Trust your gut. Trust your instincts. If something feels off or emotionally draining, when you're in the presence of this person, listen to your intuition and acknowledge your emotions. Start looking at this person as if they're a third party. Start to observe them. Start to look and go, is this right? I don't think so. And start to, almost as if you're reporting the news, and it can start to help you see what's going on and start to understand what's happening from a different perspective. You know, Wayne Dyer used to say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And you can start to see your feelings are valid, and you can start to see that having ignored them for so long has just led to you just feeling exhausted. When you walk away from being in that person's space and you feel exhausted, that is a huge sign. I remember somebody saying to me, when you start like Googling narcissism or you're starting to like research things, that's probably a sign too, right? If you're with this person, you're feeling uneasy, you're feeling like uncomfortable after interacting with them, the spidey sense around them is just telling you that something is off. It probably is. Pay attention to those cues. Your heart actually knows what's going on before your brain knows what's going on. You know, your body reacts physically to somebody before your brain reacts. That is the next thing. The next thing that you can do is create those actual boundaries. The way that I say this is, if that first boundary that you can create is just to say, you can't speak to me in a disrespectful manner, or your approach is not working for me. Just start expressing your needs, expressing your limits, and not being afraid to express that. That's a huge step forward. And just acknowledge yourself in that. Say, I'm proud of myself in making that huge step and protecting yourself and protecting your well-being and showing yourself and that narcissist that you're no longer tolerating their manipulative behavior and allowing them to invade your personal space and invade your sense of self-respect. That is a huge step forward for yourself. To say, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with having you speak to me this way. I prefer not to continue this conversation until you are ready to speak to me in a way that's respectful or in a manner that's respectful, or I prefer not to have this discussion right now. Whatever it is that works for you. And that is fine. If a narcissist is demanding that you have a conversation at a certain time, you can say, no, this time doesn't work for me. And I would say, making a plan, Stan. I am not available until this particular time. And when we meet at that time, this is going to be the agenda. This is going to be the scope. And then not allow the conversation to go beyond that scope, not go beyond that agenda. That is you taking control. That is you saying, this is how it's going to go. And that is completely okay. I always say, here's what's negotiable: contracts, issues, terms. What's not negotiable is your self-worth, your self-respect, who you are. That's the next thing. And then the next thing is to stay firm, stay consistent. Once you create those boundaries, just sticking to them is so essential. Be calm, be assertive. You don't have to be emotional. Don't be emotional, because once they know that you've gotten under your skin, then they know they have you. If you can do this, I want you to put this in the comments. I can do this. Put that in the comments right now. I can do this. Avoid getting sucked in, drawn in, pulled in, because once they go fishing, they start baiting, and they will try to bait you. 100% they're going to try to bait you. They're going to say whatever they can to try to bait you. They know what your weak spots are. They're going to be pushing. And then the next piece is to make sure that you surround yourself with people who are supportive. Make sure you do that. I do have a support group. It's Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung in Facebook. Make sure you join that. I also have a sponsor on this channel, which is BetterHelp. Make sure you join that too. If you need therapy, so it's betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung. It's a sponsor in this channel. It doesn't cost you any extra if you use it. It's there if you need it. And we just want you to have access to something that you can trust. And also, make sure that you've gotten my book at slaythebully.com, because we have access right there to a free master class right now, and in a free workbook, and behind the scenes access to all kinds of really cool stuff, which is right now available for a limited time. So make sure you get that too. Support yourself, and surround yourself with supportive and understanding individuals who can uplift you, validate your feelings. Positive influences can help you maintain your strength, especially during these challenging times. And with narcissists, they're constantly trying to isolate you, constantly saying things like everybody else thinks, no one else thinks, trying to make you think like you're the only one out there. So seek out family and friends who you can share your experiences with and learn from others who face similar situations. These connections can provide you with insights and strategies for dealing with narcissists effectively. As I said, engage in the online communities like the ones that I have provided here. I have a podcast, I have this YouTube channel, I have an Instagram, I have all kinds of things available for you that are free. So remember that your voice matters. Your happiness is worth defending. Your light, your soul, it's worth defending. That's why these boundaries are so important. Protect yourself, pave the way for becoming healthy, becoming the best version of yourself. You were meant to shine. You were meant to born. You were meant to have your soul be fulfilling God's highest purpose for yourself. It's almost disrespectful to God not to do that. So let's continue supporting each other on this journey of personal growth. In this video, I'm going to give you 6 tactics, six simple ways to shut narcissists down. so that you can stop having to deal with them. Finally defend yourself against that crazy narcissistic manipulation. So number one is know the type of narcissist that you are dealing with. Are you dealing with a covert narcissist? Are you dealing with a grandiose narcissist? Are you dealing with a malignant narcissist? So this is where you have to do some education. You have to do some research, learn about this. This is why you're here, right? This is, the very first step in figuring all of this out is starting to realize, hey, it's not you. It's not something that is wrong with you, and not taking it personally. One of my very favorite books on the planet is The 4 Agreements. I absolutely love this book. And it's a very simple book. It's a book that you can read in an afternoon. It's really small, and it's 4 agreements that you keep with yourself. And one of the agreements is never to take anything personally, because the way people treat other people is a direct reflection of the way they feel about themselves, good or bad, right? And that means that if people feel good about themselves, they treat people well. And if they feel bad about themselves, then they treat people poorly. And deep down, narcissists don't feel good about themselves. They hate themselves deep down inside. And that's why they treat people poorly. So, you can't take anything that they do personally. And that's why, the very first layer of this is education. And that's what you're doing now. And you're realizing, hey, it's not you, it's them. And so you're going to realize, okay, number one, I'm dealing with a narcissist. Number two, what kind of narcissist am I dealing with? So determine the type of narcissist that you are dealing with. And I have videos on all of this. So if you're, trying to figure out, is it a covert? Is it a grandiose? Is it a malignant? Go and check out my videos on all of those things and try to figure out, what kind of narcissist is it that you're dealing with? Okay, so that's number one. Number two is be aware of the tactics that they use. All right. And this is all part of my SLAY methodology, by the way. When you're developing a strategy, when you're developing your leverage, when you're anticipating what they're going to do and being 2 steps ahead of them, and focusing on you and your offensive strategy and your mindset, the very first piece is strategy. And in developing your strategy, you've got to know what kind of narcissist it is that you're dealing with, figuring out what tactics to use, right? So be aware of the tactics that each one of them uses. Coverts act differently than grandiose narcissists, and they act differently than malignant narcissists. Each one is slightly different, because covert narcissists want to be under the radar. They want to look like they're the victim, right? They present differently than a grandiose narcissist. Malignants are, in a way, kind of like not the smartest ones, because they're the ones that'll be out there stalking you and, being violent. And, in a way, that's not the smartest thing to do. The coverts are the ones that'll be like, oh my goodness, I'm the humanitarian, I will take care of everybody. But under the radar, they're the ones that are death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, I think they're the stealthiest and in some ways the smartest of all of them, because everyone else will think that they're a victim, and darn well that they're not. So I think coverts are the worst ones. Anyway, I digress. Be aware of the tactics they use. That's number 2. Number 3, distance yourself from that narcissist. Distance yourself, create boundaries. They've been conditioning you from that beginning. You've got to start distancing yourself. You've got to start creating boundaries. You've got to start saying, I'm drawing a line in the sand, and I'm no longer taking this. I'm now saying you have to treat me with respect. And I'm now saying there's a new game in town. I always say step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free, right? In order for you to shift that dynamic and turn things around, you have to start with distancing yourself and creating boundaries. It's never going to change unless you make a change. You keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting, right? That whole definition of insanity. So you've got to distance yourself. You've got to put boundaries in place. You've got to start making a change. So that's number 3. Number 4, start documenting everything, recording everything, writing things down. If it's an email, you're saving. If it's a text, you can screenshot it. If it's voicemail, make sure you save it. Do not delete. Everything gets saved. Everything gets documented. If they are late for something, you write it down. Make sure that you are keeping track of absolutely everything. They will make mistakes. They will trip up. They will lie. They will give you plenty of ammunition, but you've got to make sure that you have kept track of it and start organizing it, because that's how you're going to get them. My Slay program will show you how to do that. You've got to start getting yourself prepared for it. And you can do this. And I want you to put that in the comments. I can do this. All right. But you absolutely have to get started. That's number 4. Number 5 is do not engage. Do not engage with them, because they're going to try to bait you. Engage with them as minimally as you absolutely have to. Very, very brief, very, very brief interactions, or as minimally as possible, because emotionally they're going to try to bait you. They know that's your Achilles heel. They're going to say whatever they absolutely can. If it's something with the kids, whatever they know is your emotional Achilles heel, they're going right for that. So if you're a deadbeat dad, you're a horrible mom, you're terrible at your job, you suck at this, whatever it is, so that they can get you to respond, get you to be defensive, that's where they're going to go, because they know that you'll respond then. So don't take the bait. Don't go there. Don't allow them to get you into that space, because then you will be both sucked in. They're going to take you into that quicksand. Don't allow it. And then finally, the last one is set personal limits. Decide for yourself what your limits are going to be with them, and then do not cross those. I always say with negotiation, what's negotiable? Issues are negotiable. Terms in a contract are negotiable. What's not negotiable? Your self-esteem, your self-respect. Those things are not negotiable. They're never negotiable. And so when they start to make it personal, when they start to say things to you that are personal, putting you down, speaking to you in a manner that's not respectful, yelling at you, being denigrating, you do not have to stay there. You don't have to have a conversation. You have the right to say, I'm terminating this conversation until we can cool it down, until it can be one that can be respectful on both sides. You absolutely have the right to do that. Those are 6 simple ways to shut them down, to defend yourself against narcissistic manipulation of any kind, no matter where you are in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's your mother, father, sister, brother, neighbor, friend, coworker, boss, whoever it is. You have the right to have self-respect as a human being in a relationship with a narcissist, period. End of story. zero tolerance policy. So how do you deal with this? How do you deal with this? So let's talk about a few things that you can do to put into place to start shifting that dynamic. Okay, because I want to talk about that because you've been conditioned by the narcissist. They condition you from the beginning of the relationship, just by them doing some things and then getting away with it a little bit by little, a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. And so, you get more and more paralyzed, a little more and more frozen, a little more hopeless, helpless. And it's very, very difficult because they are emotional vampires. You feel the life draining out of you. It's extremely painful. It causes extreme trauma, which manifests in you physically as well. So, you have to understand that the cognitive dissonance that's going on in your brain because of the constant gaslighting and all of the things that they do is not something that you can just turn around immediately. It's something that you have to do with baby steps. So I always say step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. And step 3, break free. You're turning this around to shift that dynamic, and you have to do it very slowly and surely. So the first thing that you're going to do is create some boundaries. When you're step 1, don't run. You have to create those boundaries, putting some boundaries in place so that you can start avoiding that toxicity, so that you can start to heal, so that you can start to not allow that toxicity, that narcissistic rage to be there. And that they're going to be triggered, and that they're going to try to trigger you as well. So you want to decide up front what you're going to tolerate, what you're going to allow, and then just start baby stepping it on what you're going to say. You know what? This is not okay. You can't speak to me this way. We will have a conversation later when you're ready to talk to me in a proper tone or something to that effect, and be super crystal clear about that. And when they have those tantrums, which they will, they're going to try to guilt you. They're going to try to blame you. They're going to try to shame you. They're going to try to goad you. All of the things that they will do. And you just have to be strong, because they're going to try to wear you down and pick at you and chip at you. And you have to be strong and say, no, I'm not giving in to this. All right. The next thing that you can do is just say, so step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. And that's when you start shifting that dynamic, and you start to say, I'm going to start to talk to you, and I'm going to start to present my arguments. This is all part of my SLAY methodology: strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focus on you. You don't apologize for it. You stand in your power. You don't defend yourself. Never explain, justify, or overshare. Don't defend yourself, because when you defend yourself, you're giving the other person power, and you don't want to do that anymore, right? Say sorry, not sorry. So I want you to put that in the comments right now. Sorry, not sorry. I'm not apologizing anymore for my actions. I'm not going to be allowed to be made to feel guilty for anything. And I'm not falling into that trap. And I know that your rage is terrible, but I'm not going to be sucked back in because you're a bully or because you're a terrorist. It's terrorist tactics is what it is. And you can't surrender to that abuse. You have to set and enforce those boundaries and not justify the fact that you have them. That's when step 3, break free, starts to happen. 99% of a negotiation happens before you walk into a room. Why do I say that? Because it's all in your mindset too. And you also have to be on the offensive. It's focusing on you. SLAY. Why is you, right? So educate yourself, do the things that you need to do, and understand that regardless of the type of narcissist that you're dealing with, whether it's covert, grandiose, malignant, they all have some form of narcissistic rage that gets triggered regardless of the type of narcissist that you're dealing with. I know because I dealt with them for more than 20 years. As an attorney, I've seen it firsthand. I've had a front row seat as an attorney. I have facilitated many, many, many mediations, many negotiations as an attorney. I have coached people on the highest level. And I know what that looks like. I know what their tempers look like. I know what their rage looks like. And I know that they enjoy it. They get a sadistic pleasure out of punishing others. They use that punishment to control people. And they use that rage. It's a way to get people to do what they want. Just sort of like a 2-year-old having a tantrum on the floor. They use that anger, they use that rage to get their parents to do what they want. And that's what narcissists are doing too. All right, so let's dive into how to defeat narcissists in a legal way, but almost should be illegal. So the first thing is that you've got to set boundaries. I always say, put that invisible shield down around you, and it's like an invisible bubble. And now you are protected. You're protecting yourself so that you no longer are triggered by them emotionally. You want to achieve emotional mastery first things first, and you want to develop a line upon which they are not allowed to cross. You are setting it up that there's a new game here in town. So you're switching that dynamic of power. So step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. So step 1 is you're creating these boundaries because they've been conditioning you from the beginning, and you don't want to set yourself up for that anymore. So you are saying, this is a boundary. It cannot be crossed. It cannot be manipulated. I'm no longer tolerating where I'm not going to be respected. I'm not going to be confrontational. This is how it's going to go. If you are in a high conflict divorce, rather than engaging with them emotionally, they're going to try to violate agreements. They're going to try to get away with not having to give you any kind of documentation. They're going to make everything your fault. Just make sure that you're documenting everything. Texts, emails, unscheduled visits or missed visits or late payments, whatever it is, so that they will eventually be setting themselves up for failure because you're just going to use their own behavior, their own words against them. They're going to build an invisible fence around them that they're not even going to realize is there until it's too late. So you're going to have this documentation that you can use in a mediation, in a four-way setting, in any kind of conflict resolution setting, and make sure that that documentation is rock solid, it's complete, it's concrete, it's undeniable. And then you can use like my curated GPT, which is part of my SLAY program, and you can actually feed it with all of your information, all of your documentation, and it will create for you how to build that leverage. If you're in a workplace setting and they're trying to manipulate you, your time, your energy, you want to politely say, these are my job responsibilities, these are my duties, make sure you are fulfilling on them completely, and then have documentation about when they're attempting to cross them. All right. So set legally enforceable boundaries in a way that avoids direct conflict, but leaves a paper trail of evidence that works in your favor. Fed up with narcissists walking all over you? Sick of everyone believing their lies while you're paying through the nose in attorney's fees? What if you could hold all the cards for a change? Hey, I'm Rebecca Zung. I'm a top 1% trial attorney, a USA Today bestselling author, and I've spent my entire career helping people slay narcissists in negotiations, most recently through my proven slay method. What if your suffering could become your superpower? Imagine turning all that pain into power, not just for you, but for others too. This is your chance to take back control. you can finally win. Become a high conflict negotiation certified coach. Help others while transforming your own life and do good for the world. This is your chance. Go to RebeccaZung.com/apply and I'll show you how to turn the tables for good starting today. The second thing is using their ego against them as leverage. They always overplay their hand. They always go too far. It's their need to feel superior, their need to continue to manipulate and control. And they don't see long game. They only see short term. And you're going to use this to your advantage, especially in a legal or negotiation setting. If you're in a divorce or a business negotiation, a narcissist's overconfidence leads them to believe that they're going to win no matter what, that you're always going to be the less powerful one. Let them think that they're outsmarting you. Let them think that whatever, while you build your case. Agree to minor concessions if you need to, fluff up their ego if you need to. I call it fluff for favor, vomit later. But then you quietly build your stronger case through your documentation, through forensic accounting, through expert witnesses, whatever you need to do. Their ego is going to blind them to the fact that you are like the tortoise and the hare. You're the tortoise who's actually pulling ahead of them. If it's a work situation, if you're in a professional context, if this narcissist is dominating meetings, trying to take credit for your work, let them think they're in control while you keep records of every idea, contribution, communication that's necessary so that you build your case. And when the time comes, calmly present the evidence to whoever you need to present it to demonstrate what the truth actually is. And they're not going to believe that you have such thorough documentation. So the takeaway on this is use their overconfidence to lull them into complacency while you gather the tools that you need to expose them later. And you know that they always lie, they always act poorly, they always do things that give you so much evidence. And if you know that this is true, put "so true" in the comments below. The next thing is weaponizing facts and evidence in cases. Narcissists thrive on manipulation, but they can't twist the truth when the facts are solidly documented. In legal settings, facts and evidence are the ultimate power. A narcissist might try to hide assets in a divorce, but if you gather all the right financial records, offshore bank accounts, whatever, it's always easy to follow the path. I mean, in today's world, it's always easy to find some thread of a path. And presenting irrefutable evidence makes it impossible for them to gaslight or manipulate the narrative. I've seen narcissists go from confident to completely panicked when confronted with undeniable proof. If it's a workplace situation that you're dealing with, it's a boss or it's a colleague, that they've been undermining your work, documenting every interaction is key. Keep detailed email chains, meeting notes, project timelines. If they ever try to discredit you or claim responsibility for your work, you have hard evidence to protect yourself or even use with HR or legal proceedings if necessary. Facts are your greatest weapon. Narcissists rely on emotional manipulation, intimidation, bullying tactics, but they can't win when the evidence speaks louder than their lies. So if you've dealt with this, give me a "so true" in the comments and also share your experiences in the comments. And if you want a really great guide to get started with documentation, go to docthenarc.com, and get my free guide on what to start documenting with narcissists, docthenarc.com. You want to have really good documentation. You want to have really good boundaries. You want to use their egos against them. And then you end up weaponizing the facts to potentially expose them. And that's how you create leverage. And that's the plan to defeat narcissists that actually works. I've helped people all around the world in many, many countries in lots and lots of places. and it definitely works. Chose this topic because people come to me every single day feeling like exhausted. And I know you guys say, Rebecca, I am so tired of the chaos. I don't want to fight anymore. I don't even want revenge. I just want peace. I just want to win, but I don't want war. And that's exactly what this video is about. This is 5 proven ways to defeat the narcissist without even fighting them. You don't want to have to yell. You don't want to have to argue. You don't even want to have to expose them directly. These are 5 strategies right here where it hurts, where you don't even have to lower yourself to their level. And before we dive in, I want to give you my free Crush My Negotiation Prep Playbook. This has been used by literally hundreds of thousands of people to get the results that they wanted. It's a free 15-page playbook that will tell you from beginning to end how to get the results you want. So just go to winmynegotiation.com and get it for free. It's a totally free resource. And you can just get it from this QR code right here too. It's a way to neutralize their attacks, manipulation, and just go ahead and grab that. All right, so you ready to slay without the fight? Let's go. Number 1, silence. Silence is your sword. Narcissists crave your reactions. They live for your outrage. Every text, every jab, every sneaky little dig is bait. And they're hoping for you to bite. But here's the secret. When you go silent, they lose their supply. When you stay calm, they lose control. When you stop reacting, you start winning. Let's say you get this text. Wow, guess you're too busy pretending to be a good parent to actually show up for your kids. Your instinct might be so badly to defend yourself, but instead you pause, you say nothing, or maybe you even respond to, I'm going to address this in our family wizard. That's it. That's the gray rock method. It mixed with strategic indifference. Now, here's what usually happens. They escalate. They push harder because it's like a toddler having a tantrum, right? They just you scream louder, kick more, have more of a tantrum, right? But they accuse you of being cold. You're hiding something. This is proof that it's working. When they're grasping for control because you're pulling back, that means it's working. All right. So I want to know, tell me in the comments, have you ever tried going totally silent or gray rocking? Tell me what happens there. Next is close that debate door. Narcissists are master debaters, not because they care about the truth, but because they want to distract, derail, and dominate. They'll keep you debating, explaining for hours, because as long as you're explaining, you're on the defensive. So here's what I want you to remember. You don't owe an explanation for your boundaries. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to say, this doesn't work for me, period. Instead of saying, I can't take the kids this weekend because I have this thing at work, try, I'm not available this weekend. When they respond, that's not fair. You don't have to say anything. You just stay cool. This is my decision. It's final. No arguing, no defending, no explaining, just power. And that's what I call confident closure. You're shutting the door before the conversation turns into a circus. All right? Confident closure. Narcissists have a confession to make, and that is that they are way more afraid of you than you are of them, especially in court cases, mediation cases, or any kind of cases where you have to negotiate with them. But you know what? I have a confession to make too. I'm sick and tired of these people bullying you and making you feel exhausted and paying way too much in attorney's fees and dragging you through the mud. My name is Rebecca Zung, and I'm an attorney. I've been recognized by U.S. News as one of the best lawyers in America. And in fact, I was so sick and tired of these people bullying you that I started studying narcissism so that I could beat them in the courtroom. And now I'm here to make the case so that you can win too. I developed a 4-part proven blueprint that has helped tens of thousands of people take back their freedom, win, and get back their power. And now I'm sharing it with you in a special live event, Outsmart the Narcissist, the 4-part proven plan to take back your power. 4 simple steps, one free live event, 1 free hour of your life. That's what stands between you being in hell and you being free. Join me, click the link for Outsmart the Narcissist, the 4-step proven plan to take back your power. Just click the link and let's go. The next thing is leverage their ego against them. Narcissists are ruled by one thing, the need to be seen as superior. As long as, you're trying to make them, they're trying to be seen as right. They're desperate for praise, even fake praise. And sometimes you defeat them by letting them think that they're right? I call it fluff for favor, vomit later. While you're walking away with what you actually want, let them think that. This is not manipulation. It's strategy. Let them think that they're right. It's fine. You know what? You can do your best Meryl Streep or whatever and go, oh my God, I can't believe you got that. Okay, fine. You got what you wanted. They got what they wanted. Everybody's happy. You just let them think that they're winning. You're walking away. It's good. And so instead of saying he's a horrible, terrible dad, I want full custody, you say, I believe Johnny genuinely wants a positive role in the children's lives. That's why I've created a custody proposal that ensures stability and structure for the kids while supporting that goal. You just acknowledge their ego, frame the proposal on your terms, took control of the narrative. They think they've won and you've walked away with the power. This sounds so good. I want you to put so good in the comments. So good in the comments. Next, replace arguments with evidence. Data, not drama. Narcissists twist facts like origami. They'll say, I never said that. You're making things up. That didn't happen. Suddenly you're questioning reality. Here's the truth. Facts are your fortress. Receipts are your revenge. You don't need to yell or argue or show. Instead of saying, you lied about this, you just say something like, according to the message on March 16th at 3 o'clock, you agreed to swap the weekends. Would you like me to resend that? And if you're using my Slay AI, it can help you track, sort, and summarize every single interaction. Emails, texts, parenting app. So you're always ready to drop truth like a mic. No drama, just documentation. So let the paper trail speak louder than you ever could. And by the way, I have another video, 2 ways a narcissist will react to your silence. Make sure you go check that video out next. The next one is cut off access to the real you. This is the ultimate way to defeat a narcissist. Make them irrelevant. When you detach emotionally, you stop playing their game. When you don't care if they approve or accuse, you've already won. They can't hurt the version of you they can't reach. That doesn't mean going no contact if that's not possible, but it does mean a soul detachment. It means not relying on them for validation, not hoping they'll change, not spiraling when they lie, twist, or manipulate. You're no longer on the hook. You're building a life so solid, so aligned, so free from their chaos that it bounces off your peace like a rock hitting a mountain. This is rebirth. This is the real victory. So let's recap. Silence is your sword. Don't explain your boundaries. Use their ego for leverage. Let the evidence speak for itself. Cut off emotional access. These are not just techniques. These are tools of liberation. You're not here to play checkers with somebody who's playing chess. You're here to become the board. Drop a comment below. Which one of these 5 are you willing to commit to start using today? I want to hear from you. And don't forget to get my free Crush My Negotiation Prep Playbook. This has helped literally thousands of people. And it's my gift to you.